Yo, what is going on, Guardians? J-Man here, and while all the D2 YouTubers are making content about what's breaking the Crucible, I'm focusing on teaching y'all how to counter it. Now, the Sandbox team just put out an update that is somewhat nerfing Invis Hunters. If you ask me, it's not the biggest nerf, but starting now, when invisible, Guardians will ping the radar for 0.6 seconds every 3 seconds until invisibility ends. They also note that normal radar visibility rules still apply, so you know when you're jumping or sprinting, you'll be on radar regardless. Again, not the biggest nerf. Invis is still hard to see in general, and the Void subclass is pesky as is. However, the Destiny community has this tendency to drop gear and weapons and subclasses the second Bungie nerfs them, even if it's the slightest adjustment. A good example of this is Vex Mythoclass. I mean, all they did was slightly nerf the aim assist. This thing is still a monster in PvP, but its usage dropped to near none because Bungie wrote about it in a TWAB. And if this trend applies to Invis Hunters, then my lord, we are about to see a Renewal Grasps Dustfield meta. I'm not going to go into too much detail here about the Renewal Grasps since, like I mentioned, a lot of creators already covered them. I'd recommend checking out Drewski's recent review on them, but for this video, all you need to know is gigantic Dustfield crystals that provide a ton of damage resistance to both you and the allies standing near the crystal. So how do we counter this thing? Well, when we break it down, we really have 3 options. 1. Area denial, meaning some method of preventing the enemy from standing near the crystal. 2. We can actually debuff the enemy to even things out. Or 3. We need to overpower the enemy damage resistance by buffing our outgoing damage. Let's start with option 1 and ways that we can get Guardians away from that crystal. Don't make fun of me, but Witherhoard is actually a great option here. Let the enemy throw down the dust field and pop some Witherhoards on the ground. They will either sit in the Witherhoard until death, or will have to leave the crystal, losing their damage resistance. And we can achieve something similar here with Telesto. If you're a little more comfortable with fusion rifles, you can blanket the floor with Telesto rounds, making it so that the enemy needs to retreat. I haven't dabbled with wave frame grenade launchers as much, but I will say I did get my ass handed to me by Dead Messenger recently, so that could be worth a shot as well. Aside from these area denial weapons, we also have the updated Void Warlock, which comes equipped with the Pocket Infinity range melee. We actually just put out a video breaking down this potent subclass, but what's important here is the melee's ability to actually push a Guardian out of the dust field. Now, this isn't going to get them out of the dust field 100% of the time, depending on the angle in which the melee is thrown, but if it does connect, it will make them volatile, which actually leads us to option 2 and debuffing the enemy. Void 3.0 is cluttered with great ways to debuff an enemy, effectively removing their damage resistance. In addition to the Pocket Infinity melee, there is also the Child of the Old God aspect, which weakens enemies. For my Titans out there, you have the Controlled Demolitionist aspect, which pairs great with the Shield Throw melee. And Hunters, y'all have the Smoke Bomb melee, which does weaken targets upon detonation. Not to mention, all Void 3.0 subclasses have access to Echo of Undermining Fragment that does cause all Void grenades to weaken targets as an additional option. Now, last but definitely not least, our third option to counter the Renewal Grasps is by buffing our outgoing damage in order to overpower enemy damage resistance. The obvious choice here is an Empowering Rift, but I'm actually going to encourage taking this concept to the next level. Slap on the good old Boots of Assembler and Lumina combo. Boots of the Assembler gives you those free noble rounds which you can shoot at your teammates for a damage buff to take down those stasis crutchers. Guardians, let's be real. A Renewal Grasp meta is upon us, and these are some of the best ways to counter that insane damage resistance. If you have additional ways to counter this exotic, I would love to hear them in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the Cosmodrome.